Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of How to Suck Less of Street Fighter 6. And today we're going to be talking about the drive gauge. Now, the drive gauge is the 6 greeny yellowy bars you've got there under your health bar, and they power a number of abilities your character has. We're going to talk about them sort of in most useful at the start and going on to sort of most niche, most advanced of them. We're trying to give you something useful to do with each one along the way as you progress through the ranks. So the first one we're going to cover is, of course, Drive Impact. Which you see just a ton of, and it's this still by pressing hard punch and hard kick. And the first thing to note is that it is blockable, right? So if you're playing and you tend to freak out whenever you see one of these and just start mashing buttons, remember this thing is blockable. The next thing of note is that it has super armor. So as Guile tries to kick me, I go through his kick. And it has a few hits of it. And then of course the third thing to note is what you just saw, is that if he hits me, or I hit him rather, while he's doing it, I have the ability to combo. He crumples. He gets put in a crumple state. And for a new player, this is a good opportunity to use your super. And especially when you don't really have a big combo, right? When you're not at the level yet where you have big combos to use that include your supers, this is a good opportunity to get supers in, right? The other important thing to note about Drive Impact is that even if it's blocked, it pushes you quite a ways back. Right? And if your opponent's cornered, then if they hit the corner, they have what's called a wall splat. So they crumple in the same way they did when I countered. Right? So even if they block it, you have an opening to do it there too. Okay? It's a great pressure tactic, it's a great thing to use, and it's a great thing to mix up as well. So instead of just using it sort of raw when I'm way back here, you can try doing things like a jump in and a combo, and then when they block that combo, you can just transition to that right there, you know. So that's cancelable from anything that you would normally cancel into a special. So his crouching hard punch, right? I can cancel that into special moves. Well, I can cancel it into a Drive Impact as well, and that will catch your opponent off guard just much more often than you think it will. Even at fairly advanced levels. Okay, the second thing we're going to talk about is parrying, right? So parrying is you press both mediums, and you will block pretty much all incoming attacks, and you will gain a little bit of your drive meter back. So why not do this all the time? Well, it's vulnerable to throws. You can just hold the button down here. But if I'm not being attacked, you will notice that it does drain my drive meter. Right? And of course they can come in and throw you while you're doing it. Now, there is a thing called perfect parries you can do. So if you parry and you press those two buttons, you don't have them held down, but you press them exactly as your opponent hits you, you'll get what's called a perfect parry. There'll be a real slowdown of the screen, and you'll have an opportunity to attack. It is very hard to do. There we go. So you need to be within, I think, like 2 frames, something very, very specific. But if you're practicing parrying against an opponent, if they're coming in, know that you can hold it. And if you do get that perfect parry, just do whatever your bread and butter combo is, right? If you start with a jab, I think you can always get a jab in, which means you can always get a jab combo in no matter what you move that's been parried. This might not be true of some very fast-hitting combos, but I think it's almost universally true, right? The next one we're going to go over that you're going to see a lot, especially as you get into like gold and platinum and stuff like that, is drive dash. So drive dash you do from here, you do it by holding your parry and then dashing, double tap forward, right? And it's this greeny blue effect, right, that you've seen a bunch. It has a couple uses. One is to extend combos, so you can cancel moves into it. And you can cancel moves into it just by pressing the parry. So you can do, for instance, this, again, cancelable move. As that hits, I can press both mediums, and you'll do that, right? And you can do this into itself, right? You can do that all over the place. It drains a lot of meter. You'll see people do extra long combos with it. I'm not fond of that as a use for it. In combos, I think the best use for it is to mix things up into something like a throw or to get out of a tricky situation. So if you watch my Jamie video, you'll know that this little combination that Jamie has can lead into specials but it's not really safe. And the only way for him to get out of it that's safe is something like this. It's really not a great situation for Jamie to have something blocked. But this is a great attack that's quite long range, right? So one of the things you can do is I could do this, these 3 motions, 3 buttons. So it's for Jamie, it's light punch, light kick, medium punch, or whatever combo. Maybe it's this. It can be whatever you want. And then at the end of that, you press both mediums, and you will do this, right? Or say something like this, and then throw. So that's going to be pressing both mediums for that dash, and then pressing both lights for the throw. So if Jamie does it, right? And that's going to catch them off guard quite often. And for someone like Jamie, it's extra important because Jamie can now get a drink from his throw. So if you're at the start of the match or near the start of the match and you've gotten into this and you realize that your opponent's blocking, well, okay. One thing to know, it's possible to hit that throw too fast. Whoop. I didn't do it there, but if you get it exactly too fast, you can whiff it. So sometimes a little bit of a delay, depending on what move it is, you might actually get it slightly too fast. The other thing to do with drive dashes is what we talked about before is that you can do them just from far like this, right? Great way to close distance, right? You're over here. Yeah, a fantastic way to close in on your opponent. And it has one more effect, which is that the moves that you use, the move you use out of a drive dash has more hit stun than a move normally would. So, for instance, if I try to use Jamie's overhead attack, right, and I jab afterwards, this does not combo, right? So, however, if I use drive dash, that's a combo, right? So that means that I can drive dash into an overhead if they're blocking low a bunch, right? So I condition them right. I'm doing this throughout the match, and then I do this, right? Combo. The last thing you can do with your drive meter is a drive reversal. Now, this is a pretty niche move. You don't see it a lot, even at fairly high levels of gameplay. But what this is when you're getting hit, if I press forward and both cards, like a drive impact, so they kind of looks like a drive impact, it hits them back, right, and does a little bit of damage. You know, one thing to note about this is good. While it is good for getting guys away from you, it cannot kill them, right? So no matter how little life they have left, it will not kill. So that's the drive meter. A couple interesting things you can do with each one. Good luck.